Amazon.
I'm trying to start this. Hello, hello. Welcome back to For Book Sake. I am Heather Roberts.
I am Veronica Adams, and we are 1852 Media.
That's correct. And we were chatting beforehand when I pressed the button, so you could have heard the tail end of that conversation.
Yes.
Well, but someone had told us that a very, in my opinion, prolific author only had written 16 to 20 books and had just basically marketed the hell out of them. And I was like, there's no way that that's accurate. And so I went to Amazon, and Veronica went to her website, and
we were
Amazon
we were doing a deep dive.
Amazon tells me it's 275 titles, which granted some could be, different editions, right? You have different editions of your book. But even if you cut out half of them, extraordinarily prolific author. So 20 titles, I don't know where the hell they came up with that number.
Well, I mean, the books are flavored similarly. This particular author writes a lot of the same types of books.
Yeah.
And so perhaps they were confused in terms of the books being similar, and they just made this presumption. But
it's quite possible. But yeah,
definitely not just 16 to 20 books.
No,
way more.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our topic today.
Somehow, some way.
Our topic today, we talked about last time. We said we were going to do it, so we're going to talk about it. The different levels of publishing as a career. What does it mean when you get to the next level? What should you be doing in each level? What's the marker?
Right.
So we chatted about this, and we feel that the first, your debut, up until you're making 5 figures a month, that's one level. I mean, you're on a spectrum on that level, but that's pretty much, that's one level.
Well, and I feel like that level encompasses probably the majority of indie authors. It's not to say that there aren't some that are not very commercially successful with a very small backlist. People who have breakout debuts, that happens too. But I would say that most of your part-time authors and even a lot of your full-time authors are in this particular group.
Right. So you're making, I definitely would think that's definitely true. You're trying to get up to that, $10,000 a month mark.
Yes.
That's your goal.
Yes. And these numbers are monthly. We're not talking about annual royalties. We're talking about what you're making every month.
Right. Because then once you get up to that, well, really maybe even less than that, less than 5 figures, because once you hit 6 figures, you sort of morph into a different category. So if anything, maybe the 7,000 and below, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm doing quick math in my head. I think that's about accurate.
Well, 7,000 to 8,000 in royalties before any of your expenses would be about $100,000 a year in annual royalty revenue. So, after you factor in all of the costs of publishing, you're not making $100,000, but your cash flow starts at roughly $100,000.
Right. And we're talking gross figures here too. Yes. I think that's important.
Absolutely.
So maybe we should just say it like that then. If you're making less than $100,000 a year, and then once you make $100,000 and over, you're in a different category.
Right.
Right. And then once you make, 7 figures a year, you're in a different category.
For sure.
But your scalability changes. So I think most indie authors are in the under $100,000 a year category. Probably most are in the under $50,000 a year category. And, what should you be doing at that stage? 0 to 50K is a big, trial. That is a journey to try to get there. Which is why...
that's where you're going to do most of your hustling. Is in that run up to a really consistent stream of revenue on a monthly basis that equates to something close to 50K, like you said. So.
Which is why there are a lot of programs out there that talk about that 50K marker as being an indicator. You can make 50K gross, but I don't really feel like that's an indicator of success to the next level. You're maybe 1.5, right? I don't think you're at 2 until you reach that 6-figure marker, because when you're reaching that at gross, you have to then take out all of your expenses, and your net then is really not anything substantial that you could like make a career off of. So whereas if you hit that 6-figure mark gross and you take out, your expenses, that shouldn't be more than, half, my God, you're still left with 50,000 net, which is something that you could potentially live off of. Maybe not well, but you're still able to make a living off of it and to do that and then scale your business accordingly. So, and ideally you wouldn't have 50% overhead costs.
I would hope not.
Yeah. So you would theoretically be making more.
I would shoot for 30% or less.
Right. I mean, that's the goal. If you have 50% overhead, you probably should look at cutting some things, or maybe this is an investment period, right? Like this is
There are times where, so I think it goes without saying, and this is something that we have found is very difficult for certain people to accept. You must spend money to make money.
Yes.
The chances of you having a breakout without any sort of financial investment on your part, whether it's in high quality cover design, advertising, just all of the various things that you can put into a marketing plan, the chances of you having commercial success without any of that stuff, pretty slim.
Pretty slim. Yeah.
You could probably buy a lottery ticket and have better chances of winning.
Yeah. So spending money to make money is a very real thing.
Yes.
But you also don't want to spend too much money too soon.
Right.
Because you need to have products to be able to sell.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The beginning debut author. What should you be doing when we say, spend money to make money?
Right.
At that particular point, I would spend money on investment in my infrastructure.
Yep.
Website design.
Yes.
Newsletter, creating that. It's probably not going to be that expensive because you don't have a lot of subscribers.
Well, right. Most newsletters your cost for newsletter is going to be based on the number of subscribers that you have and how many emails you're sending every month.
Yeah.
And when you're just growing a list, you're not going to have,
crazy expensive
6
costs.
figures of subscribers. So you're not going to be charged hundreds or thousands of dollars every month for it. It'll be 10, 20, $50 a month at most.
And then you want to invest in a great editor, a proofreader.
Yes.
Your copy editor. Get an editing team. Invest there. That's what you should be investing in. That's what your overhead should be. And so, that might be, your overhead's going to be very expensive in the beginning because you don't have any profit coming in. I think you have to think about this as a business, and you are creating a startup business. And when you create a startup business without a huge product line, then you're not going to be seeing a return on your investment immediately. You need the products to be able to be sold to be able to see the return on your investment.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be investing in your business, because setting up from the start with correct pieces will make it so much better to scale later when you have those pieces together.
And something that you can do if you are genuinely a debut author, you have not published a single title yet, you're just making plans and moves, right ahead before you start publishing. Put a backlist in your own manuscript file together for books that you can publish to buy yourself time to start really growing the business.
Yeah,
and maybe don't actually start publishing until you have 3 or 5 books ready to go.
5 would be lovely.
Yes.
And you will thank future you for doing that.
Yes.
Because authors who are in this, have been grinding at this now, who are putting out, a book every month to 2 months.
Yep, we have authors who do that.
We have authors who do that.
Are publishing every 30 days.
And it can be a grind.
Uh-huh.
And they can't take a vacation or a break or anything like that. They have a very strict schedule. Now we try to work in breaks by doing different promotion and strategy things. But you have to hit these markers or else the algorithms will stop promoting your titles and you're going to lose income. That's the problem. It's not like, oh, the algorithms are going to stop, promoting me, fine, whatever. No, that turns into real dollars. That turns into financial impact in your bank account, real money. So it is imperative that you're not chasing your tail from the beginning. And especially if you want the best chance of being able to see a return on your investment faster, get 5 books ready before you ever press publish on one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please do that.
Yeah. Well, and depending on what you write and how long your books are, 5 books, that could be a whole year of publishing for you.
Yeah.
Right. And you get to set the pace from the start, right? Like, are you going to publish 2 books a year? You're going to publish 1 book a year? You're going to publish 12 books a year? Like, what does your business model look like? And a lot of new authors don't necessarily know that. But if you give yourself the cushion of multiple books ready to go,
you have an idea.
You can make that determination as you're starting out and building the business.
Right. Because setting expectations from the beginning is so crucial.
Yes, it is.
If you have a book 1 up as a debut author and you don't have a book 2 or a 3, if it's like a series and you don't have the final, like those books up, think about it from a consumer perspective.
Yeah.
Are they really going to take the chance on reading this new author that is brand new that we don't know if you're going to write, future books?
Yeah.
So we're going to invest our, mental energy into this world that you've created. And now we don't, we might not get our satisfying conclusion, which, let me just tell you, is infuriating for every reader out there if you do not get a satisfying conclusion to a series. Had to work it in.
Heather's having a personal problem with a very popular series from 20 years ago.
Years ago. I am just now reading it, okay? I'm just now involved in the series.
It is bleeding through and touching every part of her life right now. She's so bitter.
I'm so mad. So mad.
Oh, excuse me.
It is a love triangle situation.
Tears of laughter. Oh
and
my gosh.
She's not ending up, because I spoiled this for myself, okay? Because I am invested in this series and I needed to know before I went any further, about halfway through, who the main character ends up with. And she ends up with the wrong person in the series. And I am just, I don't know if I want to go any further. I don't know. I'm so
now she's weighing the sunk cost fallacy against her desire to switch gears and be done with this negative experience. She's just so mad about it, you guys.
I'm so mad. So yeah, and I will remember this. Like, this is imprinted upon my soul, okay? With this particular series.
Like a fated mate.
Don't do this. Don't do this to your readers. Don't do this to your readers. Set expectations from the beginning, okay? Set expectations from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will get some not angry people. At the end, you'll get very happy people who want to keep
Although, understand, you are going to get some angry people in your reviews no matter what you do.
100%.
There's going to be somebody who doesn't like something. And you're never going to write the perfect book that everyone loves and responds to positively. It's just impossible to do.
Yeah. And let's be honest, I happen to love this series. I mean, I could go down. This is not what this episode is about. We could talk about this later. But there's reasons why the thing happened that it did. And they were outside of the author's control. And
the reason she knows this, you guys, is because she spent hours on Reddit.
I went down a Reddit rabbit hole. Anyway, and this is not even relevant. It's not current. This is literally like 20 years.
Yeah.
This is more than 20 years. Like,
from the beginning of the series, yeah. What, 25, almost 30 years ago?
Yeah. If anybody can figure it out, you get an extra prize.
Yeah. So email us your guesses.
Email us. No, for real. Email us your guesses. If you can figure it out what series I am talking about, then I will send you something. I'll send you a little a little paperback
or something.
Holder or something.
Yeah.
So send me your guesses.
Oh, too funny.
But that's the point. If you are a debut author coming out and you have You need products. That is your main driving force. You need products to sell.
Yes.
If you do not have products to sell, you should not be dumping a ton of money in advertising.
I'm thinking about two very different debut authors that I worked with in the past, and one had much quicker. They've both gone on to some very significant success as they've become mid-list authors and published more.
Yeah.
The one who had a much more financially rewarding debut was the one who had 6 or 7 books planned. 2 or 3 of them written when the first book was launched, and therefore there were multiple pre-orders after the debut.
Yeah.
The one who published one and then scrambled to write book 2, get it up, and we went through the process one book at a time, was a much slower start.
It is.
Much slower start.
And just think about it as being part of, your business plan. You really need to think about this, again, as a business. This is a business. Unless you are trying to do this as a hobby, which is totally fine. You can do this as a hobby. But if you are looking to make actual income off of your writing, you need to realize that you have now entered a business. And a business requires products. It has overhead. It has costs. It has, all sorts of things attached to it. And in order to do it well, you need a strategy. I've had some authors who are like doing a new pen name, for example, or doing a debut situation, and don't, it's a secret pen name. They don't want anybody to know it's them, because then obviously there would be crossover, right? If they had that.
Well, or perhaps they're writing in such wildly different genres that like they don't want the crossover because the author of one could not necessarily appreciate or respect the content of the other.
Yeah. That has happened before as well. So in those situations, those authors who have done that will write multiple books, and they'll have them ready to go so that they can have the plan of, okay, we're releasing 3 here, we're releasing the next 3 here, like that. And if it's like a trilogy situation or what have you. I've had some authors also drop 3 books on one day. And that, let me tell you, Amazon loves you. They love you. If you do that, that is a strategy though. And you drop all 3 books on one day. You can, it's expensive to do that from a front loading perspective. But you also have the best chance of getting a faster return on investment, because now you're not selling just one title, you're selling 3 titles that are all available. And then having future titles available for pre-order, because you want that conversion sale. You want to keep them. So you should absolutely be doing that while you're at it, while you're writing that 3 to 5 books before you press publish. You should also write a reader lore that is a bonus novel that you can use in your newsletter as to get organic newsletter subscribers.
I'm always blown away at the number of mid-list authors who reach out to us for consultation, advice, full-time service, whatever. And they don't have a magnet. Yeah. They don't have something free that they offer at the end of their books to get people to subscribe to their newsletter list, or that they're using to get cold subscribers by, pay-per-click ads or whatever. That there's just no mechanism for them giving additional content or bonus content away yet.
It's crazy.
You don't have to write a completely separate story. Go comb your original manuscript drafts for deleted scenes. Like pull from that very first book.
Yeah, pull deleted scenes.
Mm-hmm. Write a bonus epilogue.
That, I think those work the best.
So, or a bonus prequel.
And I've said this before. I have one client who writes bonus epilogues for every single book that she writes. She then puts them up on BookFunnel and has them lead into her mailing list.
Perfect.
From
at the end of the book that they are connected to.
At the end of the book they're connected to. She has it segmented. So she, at any point,
she knows where somebody enters her mailing list, which book got them on board.
Yep. And it is genius. It's beautiful. It makes for high open rates when she sends out a newsletter.
Well, because she can target readers based on the tropes in the book that they signed up from. Like, your second chance book segment is the one you're going to market the hardest to the next time you write a second chance romance.
Exactly. And it works incredibly well.
Yeah.
That is the way to do it. Now, if you do not have that level of extra in you,
and a lot of people do not.
A lot of people do not. Then make one. Just make one. Make it 10,000 to 12,000 words and 15K if you're feeling ambitious. Cap it at that. Write a short story that it can be having nothing to do with anything of the world in which you're in. If that's the only one that you're writing, ideally it does have nothing to do with anything because you want to be able to reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. So write one, put it on BookFunnel, connect it to your newsletter, and put that link in the back of your book for free download. That is how you're going to get amazing organic newsletter subscribers.
And you said 15K words ish. I'm gonna say if you write shorter books, if your books border on novella length, like if you're in the 30 to 50K crowd in terms of how long your stories are, you can probably get away with doing this for 5K or less.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're in the
book, if you write 70 to 100,000 words a book, definitely want to be more of a 15K short story reader magnet type author. But if your books are shorter, your reader magnets can be shorter too. There's nothing wrong with that.
And that is the best advice I think anyone can give you as to how to get people to sign up to your newsletter. I mean, that's just the best way to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's going to get you the best subscribers. And it's a lot of work because if you don't do it now, think about this, okay? If you do not do it now and you decide in the future after you've released 15 books that you want to do this, you now have to go and update the back matter for 15 books.
Yes.
Which is terrible. Now you should download Vellum yourself or some other formatting software. Atticus. You should do that because that is also going to save you money in the future. You won't have to send out formatting to other people. You know, Vellum is $200, a one-time fee, and I think it's $250 if you add in print, which you should, and figure it out. There's plenty of YouTubes on how to use it. The people at Vellum are incredibly responsive with customer support. There's groups on Facebook that can give you tips and tricks. Learn how to use that software. Same with Atticus. I'm sure that there are others that can do it. You know, if you have the option of, I just don't feel like doing this one, I'm going to send it out. But I'm also going to purchase the Vellum file from whoever does it so that if I want to update it later, I can do that. Purchase the Vellum file or whatever file, the Atticus file. I'm most familiar with Vellum. That's what I use. You will thank yourself. You will thank future you. I mean, truly.
Yes, investing some time learning some of this stuff in the beginning is going to really be a boon to you as you grow the business.
Yeah. This is a business. I don't know how many times I can say that. This is a business.
So I guess then maybe we should move on down the road a little bit and talk about what happens once you are making some royalties every month and you have 7, 10, 15, 20 books to your pen name.
Right. So, I mean, at that point, if you're making over 6 figures a year, right? Now you're thinking, okay, how can I scale this so that I could be mid 6 figures a year, right?
Yep.
Like, you don't want to just be like hovering around the 100,000 mark. You want to be like up there. Absolutely, you do. So, I mean, you have to think, one, you have to tend to the backlist. I mean, that's probably the one thing that a lot of people find that they lose sight of as they're going through. They're like, okay, it's done. It's back here. I don't need to think about it anymore. But you really need to treat them all like they could be brand new products. And you need to continue to advocate, push out, first and free series. There's a variety of ways to play with your backlist. One way is, the putting a sale on the first book in the series if it has great conversion rates. You want to study your conversion rates. You want to know what is a conversion rate? Sorry, I should probably back up there. But it's if 10 people buy book one in your series, how many people are going on to read book 5 in your series? Right? How many people are going on to read book 2? Did you lose them somewhere? Did 10 people buy book 1 and 8 people bought book 2? Okay, that's not insanely, crazy. If 10 people bought book 1 and 2 people bought book 2,
That's a
there's a
problem.
problem. Something happened where you did not catch them at the end of book 1.
You lost them somewhere in book 1.
And that can also happen in the middle of a series. So you can have like 10, 9, 9, 9, 2.
Yes. So and you need to be looking at your numbers and breaking this down for yourself regularly. Maybe not every week, but like quarterly, every 6
Yes.
months. Like look at your backlist and study and do the math and figure out, are your series performing the way you need them to?
Right.
Or do you have a problem somewhere in the series that you need to address?
And then the question is, and that's a lot of what we do with clients, is going back through their backlist and forcing them to look at the numbers and then evaluating and saying, okay, what's causing this? What is the
Yes.
problem? And we've seen a variety of problems. Sometimes it's as simple as, oh my God, I forgot to do the back matter in this book in the same way I've done it in the other books. I had a mental slip and the back
I
matter
was
just,
on deadline. Like,
yeah.
stuff
And I
happens.
and that can be as easy as just fixing that and then suddenly the numbers pop back up. Or it could be that that has a trope in it that you didn't normally do. Maybe you were taking a risk. Maybe you didn't perform the trope or the storyline in the expectation of the reader, and it made people not want to continue. You can, we've had people beta read, or not really beta reading at that point, but read with the purpose of, would you keep going in this series? And if you wouldn't, tell me why. And we found some really good information by doing that, by just having somebody cold read a book who is trained, obviously, to be able to give that type of critique and feedback in a respectful and positive way to help, the author. And there have been changes that have been made that have, made for the book to be a better success.
Yeah. Something
So,
else we do is focus on marketing to reconvert readers who dropped off at some point, right?
yeah.
Like maybe there's nothing wrong with the book necessarily, but because it has a trope or something that was new or a risk, readers who are used to everything in the series up to that point just decided this next one wasn't for them.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we just need to get a BookBub feature deal on the book that does not have conversion. Maybe we need to, obviously, this depends on whether or not it's a standalone. You can't just throw
Yeah.
somebody into the middle of a series if the books are all interconnected. But
Right.
if they're standalones, sometimes just a nice little backlist push with a sale of some kind, a little bit of advertising, maybe some sort of influencer promotion. And suddenly you're seeing more readers jump back into the series and finish, and you're making some of those royalties that you should have made on complete series read through in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about this, that it's a timing thing too, right? Like as you're releasing the series, your readers have certain expectations going through. So you may have upset or disappointed some readers based upon whatever move you made in that title. But new readers coming in may not have the same sort of emotional feelings or expectations. And so sometimes it's just about getting new readers into the series, and then your conversion rates change because they're not so emotionally invested in the, day by day by day. Think about it like this, like when you have a TV series and you're invested and you're watching every single week for when it drops, okay? Stop laughing at me. But here's the thing. No, this is a very good analogy. And you are invested like Game of Thrones, right? Like you're watching it and you're watching every episode as it drops. Every week you are sitting in front of the television. You are emotionally invested in the
Yes.
series.
Yes.
Whereas somebody who now comes in later and watches Game of Thrones and binges the whole thing at once, they may get annoyed at the ending, but they are not going to be as like royally I mean, they'll probably be upset, but they're not going to have the same level of calling. They're not going to call HBO. Okay. They're not calling HBO. Whereas people who who were there in real time called HBO. I mean, they did. So you might upset some people, but they'll be able to move on a little faster. Unless you're me. I'm in a different.
Will they be able to move
No.
on, Heather?
I'm in a different category, okay?
Oh.
I'm just I'm not reaching out to the author because I don't think she writes anymore. Because I, dug around on her website and I don't think it's been updated since 2011. So,
but there's another clue for those of you who are going to email us guesses.
Yeah.
Heather's bitterness stems from a television adaptation.
Yes. So you can make your guesses.
And it's not Game of Thrones.
It is not Game of Thrones.
That was actually when I was sympathizing with her, I offered her Game of Thrones as this is how I can relate to what you're going through example.
Yes. And I watched Game of Thrones too. I was very royally annoyed at the end of that too.
Most of us were.
Yeah.
Most of us were.
But I did not call HBO. This is a different situation.
And if you haven't watched or read Game of Thrones, don't let this deter you.
No. Oh, it's a fantastic show. It's a fantastic show. I mean, I feel like,
the books are not done. And
right.
The liberties that were taken with wrapping up the television show were just disappointing.
Disappointing, yes, is the good word for it. But the point is, you might reach new readers who don't have the same reaction as the initial readers who were like there every single second of every single moment.
Yes.
And that could help your series convert more. So when you're at that level, you want to look at your backlist. Now, this sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Let me not lie to you. It is a lot of work. Because then also you can look at your backlist and say, how else can I sell this? Can I do translations? Can I do audiobooks? Can I put them on Radish or some other type of serialized platform?
Yep. I want to start a direct sales for signed paperbacks and have my own business selling print copies?
Should I have my own business selling ebook direct copies?
Yep. You can do the audio direct too.
You can do audio direct. Yeah, there's so much that you can do with your backlist that can then net you different.
Do you want to bundle up series and offer box sets? Do you have duets and trilogies that would also make good little packages together in one? I mean, there are a lot of ways to market and merchandise your books once they're written.
Correct. So that's the biggest difference, I would say, from the beginning to the middle, right, and beyond, is that you now suddenly have products that you can do things with. You can change the covers of these books and reach a whole new audience, because someone that was drawn to the first cover might not be drawn to the next, though you'll reach someone new.
Well, and trends change constantly. So if these are books that you wrote 10 years ago, it's probably time for a facelift anyway.
I mean, let's be honest. I'm watching a series that was written years ago. I'm not going to give the exact number because that would make it too easy for people. But decades ago, okay? Like, this is not new. This is not, contemporary situation. So you can find new people. They are out there. You can always find new consumers of your work, no matter how old the content is. You just need to make sure it's good and doesn't give an unsatisfying ending.
Yeah. I'm
not talking about your work. I'm talking about my own spite there. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm a bad elder millennial because I did not start reading Harry Potter as a child. Like,
I didn't either.
Contemporaries. I came to the series in college in a composition class where we studied young adult literature as part of the creative writing class. So, gosh, there were 5 books out, or the 5th book was about to release by the time I came to Harry Potter. So, like, you're
never too late.
Not everybody is on board from the time you write the first book in your series. Like, there's billions of people on this planet.
Everybody finds it differently. Everybody has different experiences and gets there eventually. So, just know that the readers are out there. You just have to find them.
Yes.
I think the other biggest, difference would be you're now putting money into advertising in a way that you wouldn't have when you first started out.
For sure.
I mean, hopefully you've been, learning advertising as you've been building, but if you are making six figures, you need to be putting money into advertising. And let me tell you why.
I have a hard time believing anybody would be making six figures without already spending some money on ads. Like, I would be shocked to learn that that's something that has happened.
I mean, you could be one of the very lucky ones, but you are an anomaly and enjoy your exception.
Yes.
I will tell you that if you are spending, here's why. If you are spending $10,000, I'm just throwing out a number, on advertising, we just talked about this the other day, and you are making back $11,000.
Oh my God.
You might be thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I spending $10,000 to make $11,000, or even $10,000 to make $10,500? You can make it really small.
Or if you are $1,000 to make $1,100, I mean, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. If you are basically breaking even and you're like, why am I doing this? The reason is because you're not just selling that one book that you are putting out there, or the books that you are putting out there. You are selling your brand, and you are gaining brand recognition. So you're getting new readers into your brand with every single sale that you get.
At a profit. Is it a huge profit? No.
Yeah.
But it's a profit.
But it's a profit. So that is the benefit that you are getting. You might not be rolling in the dough right now, but every single reader that comes in could be a reader that stays. That now when you release a new book, that's one more pre-order you're going to get. That's one more sale that you're going to get. And that's how you build your brand. So, if you're spending $500 and making $510, keep doing it, because you'll be able to slowly increase that spend, increase the amount of people coming into your brand, and then on your next release, you should see a higher number of sales.
Absolutely.
So if anybody tells you to just stop doing ads that you've been successfully doing, ignore them. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know this industry. They don't. If you've been successful with doing ads, now there are certain situations, blah, 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 I can't speak. Certain situations where you may want to revamp your ads, go down to a smaller spend until you can figure out what's going on with your ads.
Just completely overhauled the ad strategy for a client this week, actually. What we were doing, sometimes things just get stale and stop working. Sometimes there are changes in strategy. Sometimes there are market forces that we can't control for. You run into all sorts of things along the way. And
this is not a set it and forget it type situation.
No, I literally just shut off all the old ads and started brand new ones, new targets, new creative, new everything for a client this week. It happens. And
it happens.
You should be prepared to do that, and you should be doing it frequently.
Yes. You should be looking at that just in the same way that you're looking at conversions, because oftentimes they are very much related. You need to look at your numbers. That is the biggest thing. And so when you're scaling, you need to keep scaling with these thoughts in mind, that you're constantly looking for new readers. You want to keep your readers that you've gotten before, that hopefully have joined your newsletter list based upon your reader lore, and you want to keep doing things to find new readers.
Yep.
Because they are out there. Don't think that they're not out there. They are. We've just demonstrated how much they are. And then once you get to that highest echelon, right, where you're, 500,000 and above, right, with gross sales a year, you can start doing the really fun stuff, like anything you want, right? Because you have you have the funds to be able to do it.
It's true, though. You can take a lot of risks. You can be experimental. You can, maybe even take a whole year off if you want to.
I don't recommend that. But...
No, I don't either. But I'm just saying, if you want to gamble with that, you're in a place where you can.
Yeah. But doors open to you. You can make, like we were talking about last time, the 12 different iterations of a cover for every single book.
Yep.
You can have all the extras that you've denied yourself before getting there. Now you might be able to get some of these extras before you get to that 500,000 mark. I'm just saying, like, at that point, you are well comfortable. You don't have to worry about it. Like, it's not, if the risk fails, it doesn't have the same impact as if it was you were at a lesser figure.
Right. But realistically, how many authors make it to this point?
Not a lot. Not a ton.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And I think a large portion of the authors who are there now are ones who've been writing for a very long time.
Right. And they've been grinding and grinding and grinding.
They're not new-ish to the industry. They didn't just start, at the pandemic or, 6 years ago. Like, they've been at it for a decade plus. A lot of them even longer than that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I first started doing this type of work, I was speaking with somebody who was mentoring me, and I was just so frustrated because I had an author who only had, like, a couple of books out, and was releasing a style of book, a genre. I'm going to be very vague here. And there was another client of this firm that released a similar style book, hadn't released a book in like a year. This other author that I was helping had released, like 3 or 4 books, that year or whatever. And I was struggling. We were struggling to try to find these readers, right? And this other author just releases one book that she hasn't released in a year, and the book shoots up to like the top 100. And I was like, what the actual fuck? Like, why is this author...
Welcome to the reality of brand power.
Yeah. And this was when I was brand new. And this is when I learned about brand power, that you can be an OG author and, just sit on your laurels for a while, then decide to release a book and, make a shit ton of money. That is not how it is for everybody. And
that's
the reason...
that's what everybody else is working to get to, and a very small group of people are there.
The reason this particular author was, and why you'll find some authors, you're like, why is it like this for you? If they were publishing before or like right around when indie publishing came out, there was a very small pond. Okay. It was the smallest little indie pond that could be. And so they were a very big fish in a very small pond, and all of the readers gobbled up their stories and became very loyal to them. And those readers are still reading today, and they exist in very large numbers. Now, some have dropped off, I'm sure, whatever, but the numbers are still there. They still exist, and they are loyal. And every time they release a book, it does not matter what it is, they will buy it. And unfortunately, those, if you're coming into the very saturated industry as it sits today, that is not your experience. So it's just not going to be. So you have to grind. You have to do these things to set yourself up to get those loyal readers, so that in 10 years' time from now, you will have that. And, that situation where you release a book and you're an auto buy for some people. I do wish that Amazon would make that a thing, though. Like, for certain authors, I would just like to turn on an auto buy feature.
Every time they release something, just charge my card.
Yeah. Or like maybe even do it by series. Like if it's in a series, like just, I want to buy this whole series. Can you just...
Well, there are a lot of things that I wish book retailers would do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because sometimes I miss things. Like, it's hard to keep up with all of the, I would just like to buy the whole series as it comes out, just charge my card and put it on my Kindle. And then I'm like, oh, fun surprise. Sorry, it's a changing of the seasons here in Vermont. And, oh my God. We just had like 2 feet of snow the other day, and now I think it's 50 degrees. So
it's the most erratic time of the year.
It is. And so I have the tickle in my throat that will not go away.
But so what else for our authors at the top? The ones who get to the, they climb Everest and they get there.
They can start teaching. Which is what a lot of them do.
Yeah,
They
they
start
do.
creating their own programs, start teaching what they did, conferences, speaking.
Yeah.
And having fun with what you've built. You can do so many cool things at that point. You have the freedom to really make your own worlds.
Build shared worlds. I was just thinking about that. Yep.
Build shared worlds. You can do so many cool things because you have the readership base to do it. You have the industry credentials essentially to do it. And you can provide that experience. Whatever your brain thinks up, you can do. So, and you can keep scaling your business, that's the main thing. Some authors, like I said, have built their own worlds, basically created their own publishing houses under their worlds, which is really fun and lucrative.
Very.
And
Very.
And
now you're making money on other people writing books.
Yeah. And authors love joining them because they're coming into your world. You're giving them access to your readers. So that's a great gift. A great gift. But I think that's a lot to think about. Like, no matter where you're at with your career, you can get to the next level. I don't want Veronica and I to ever give you the impression that it's going to be an easy road full of, rainbows and butterflies, because it's not.
No, the easiest part is writing the books.
Yeah.
That's the easiest part. I mean, if you were someone who is inclined to write, if you enjoy writing, that is definitely going to be the easiest part of this business for you.
Right. And when you see that, person just with their debut novel or whatever shoot up, the charts because of social media, don't be so jealous, I guess, because they may have one success, and I hope for them that they have, some follow-ups planned. But if they don't, it's going to be a flash in the pan. And just be joyful for them that they got this one experience, because it may not ever happen again. If they don't have a strategy set up. Because I've seen that happen so many times. More times than I can count.
Well, and honestly, that's a not to backtrack, especially as we're trying to wrap up, but that's a really great point to be made in favor of making sure that your infrastructure is really solid before you publish. Because what if you do, find a golden ticket or win the lottery, so to speak, and the algorithms shoot you to the top somewhere, whether it's, social media, whatever, right? Can you capture everybody that you need to capture on that roller coaster ride? Are you prepared to have a way to market to all the people who join you on that journey the next time you're ready to release a book?
Right.
Because you should be prepared to capture them all. And if you're not.
Yeah, I represented somebody at one point who did have that lightning in a bottle and did not have the infrastructure set up, and sold a lot of copies of, I think, the first 3 books in the series. It was like a trilogy. And then went on to try to sell another series and could not find a reader to save her life. Because it was that series. That series was the lightning in a bottle, but she didn't capture any of the readers. So she didn't have the newsletter list. She didn't. And now, isn't it heartbreaking? You're like, oh my God, you had this amazing moment, and now you're back to struggling. She just thought it was going to be like this every time she released. And I was like, no, no, you had the magic experience. So let that be a cautionary tale. Get your infrastructure set up so that you can capture these people going forward.
Hot tips.
And on that hot tip.
Good talk.
Good talk.
Until next time. Heather has to go back to hating that series.
I do. I have another, couple seasons to go and then books to read. So I'll be very busy. But if you can figure it out what it is, write in and ask.